Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we give Father the praise and the glory. We thank Him. This is the start of the Feast of Dedication.
Yes.
So we give Father praise. A lot of people don't know what the Feast of Dedication means. It's not a feast that the Most High commands us to do, as we're going to find out. It's not one of the feasts in Leviticus the 23rd chapter. However, it is something that Israelite you can do on your own, or you can't, or you don't have to. Okay? But as we're going to learn today, there's no way that you can go through December and understand what the Feast of Dedication is about and not realize or not want to be a partaker of that. Okay? So we're going to, teaching's going to be a little different because we're going to be mostly out of the Apocrypha. Okay? We're going to go to a story in the book of Maccabees. Alright? And that's what we're going to learn from. Also, I have a little nitpick for you. The lie in Christianity is that we'll never know when Christ is coming back. That's a lie and false doctrine from Christianity. I'm going to show you 3 scriptures in the book of Ezekiel that tells us when Christ is coming back. And it's for us. It's not for the Edomites. It's not for Gentiles. It's not for anything like that. The book of Ezekiel tells us. And if you know, if you watch the 70 weeks of Daniel, the teaching that we did, we pinpointed it that we're not in 2015. That we're really actually in 1743. Okay? So based off of that information, and based off the information that the Most High has put on to us with the book of Ezekiel, we're going to find that out. So we got a little side on that as well. So we give Father all the praise and glory. We thank Him for the Feast of Dedication and what He did with the Maccabees during and to develop on what the Feast of Dedication is all about. Okay? It's not about Hanukkah, which is pagan. It's not about Christmas, which is definitely pagan. It's not about all that. We're going to find out what the Feast of Dedication is about. So I give Father the glory and the praise for putting this together. Okay? Our media, email, the YouTube services, counseling for healing and deliverance. Our teachings that we have coming up. Of course, December 25th is the big one. We're going to expose everything about that wicked, evil holiday again. Okay? Priest of the Most High and fear spirits. Being a deliverance ministry, we have to know about demons. The one demon that plagues everybody is fear. If you were born of a man and a woman, which is pretty much everybody, everybody has some type of fear spirit inside of them. If you don't, then you're a liar. Okay? So we're going to expose fear spirits for what they truly are. Next week, our teaching is going to be during the feast part of the Feast of Dedications. This scripture in Matthew 22:14. A lot of people say this scripture, but nobody really knows what it truly means. So I thank Father for the Most High for breaking this down. And we're going to break down, many are called, but few are chosen. Maybe you'll understand what that scripture means after we're done with that, with precept. Okay? Our next feast is in February. It's called the Feast of Purim. That's the only feast that we exchange gifts. Okay, that's the Feast of Purim. We don't do it in December. We don't do it in any other time, but for the Feast of Purim. And we're going to have a teaching on the Feast of Purim in February. We did it last year, but briefly, but we're going to do a more solid teaching this year.
Are we going to exchange gifts?
That's what the Feast of Purim is for. In January, our teachings are going to be great truth you've never heard. So what is that about? We're going to use scripture for those people who don't believe that GMOs are out there, who don't believe chemtrails are out there. We're going to use scripture and find out, and we're going to use the Bible for all these things that are going on in the world that's basically killing us. Okay, abortions, Planned Parenthood. Do I feel sorry for what happened at Planned Parenthood? No. Because Esau has it coming to himself for killing and murdering all of our innocent children. Do I feel sorry because they shot up a Planned Parenthood? No, I don't. Like Brother Malcolm says, those chickens are coming home to roost.
All right now.
All right, today, Feast of Dedication. This ain't about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a pagan ritual. And they use our menorah to highlight the 7 days of Hanukkah. 7 days of Hanukkah has nothing to do with the Feast of Dedication. And I'm going to show you that. It's not Christmas. Christmas, Kwanzaa, all that stuff, it's about money and giving gifts.
Vanity.
In fact, I'm going to show you with Maccabees, every time that a birthday is celebrated, it ends up in death. Death. Every birthday that's celebrated in the Bible, it's ended up with death. That's why we don't subscribe to happy birthday. No, we don't do that. Because the Bible clearly states that whenever there was a birth that was celebrated, somebody got killed. Somebody got murdered. No different with what happened with the Maccabees. Okay, I'm going to show you that. Purim is the only holy day where we exchange gifts. Okay? But first, before I get to that, let's get Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 4 through 6. And let's get a determination on around the time Christ is coming back. Let's get it.
Lie thou also upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it.
We know that iniquity is sin, right?
Right.
Right.
All right, read.
According to the number of the days
We know what the number of days mean, right? According to the Bible. We know when it says days, what is it talking about?
Years.
Years. Go ahead.
that thou shalt lie upon it, thou shalt bear their iniquity.
Now, ignorant Christians will have you believe that Ezekiel was laying on his side.
That's what I used to think.
And then he turned around and laid on his other side because the Most High told him to lay on his side.
That's what I used to think.
You're unlearned.
Some Christian churches think that.
Unlearned. Let's read verse 5.
For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days.
So the Most High is saying right there, laid upon the years of their iniquity based according to the number of days. It's right there. But I'm going to show you something. And you don't even need a calculator. Finish.
390 days, so shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel.
So we're going to be in captivity, slavery, bondage for 390 days, which is equivalent to 390
years.
I'm going to show you something. Read verse 6.
And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right
So
side.
Christianity tells you, okay, Ezekiel was laying on the left side for 390 days, over a year. So now he's going to flip over and lay on his right side for 390 days for another over a year. Wrong. Read.
And thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days.
40 days. Go ahead.
I have appointed thee each day for a year.
So, everybody, 390 plus 40 is what?
430.
430. Keep that in mind. 430 years, right?
Math.
430.
Slavery started. The first slave was a slave in what year?
16. No.
15 what?
1583.
No.
40.
No.
I used to know.
1584.
Six.
We're just going to start running off numbers. Let's
Wait,
get to the next slide.
7.
1589 is when the first slave was bonded as a slave, right?
Right.
So now you have 390 days, which are years. You have 40 days, which are years. 430 total, right?
Right.
1589 plus the captivity of 430 gets us what?
2019.
2019. The
3 years.
end of the last 50-year Jubilee.
That's crazy. Wait.
It's right there in the Bible.
Oh,
It's right there in the Bible.
so you're saying that slavery did not last 400 years?
No, it didn't. That's
Because you know how they
ignorant
say
teaching.
slavery now, it lasted 400 years. And then it ended.
No, slavery didn't last 400 years. That's ignorant teaching. It couldn't possibly last 400
Well,
years,
that's
or
his
else we'll
fault.
be in chains and on a cotton field right now.
Picking cotton, and some of us in the house.
Okay?
What?
For 2019, what's so significant about the year 2019?
That's when. That's the
3
new
years from
election
now.
year? Is that the next election?
No.
No,
It's
nothing to do with the election.
It's 3 years from now?
A little deeper than that. 2019, remember the 70 weeks of Daniel.
Oh, that's when,
That's when
what is
the
it called?
consummation
Nation
of Christ.
Yeah.
That's when the wilderness. Consummation of Christ. Based off of Ezekiel,
So this is 15, so we got like 4 more years?
possibly.
Yeah. Maybe 4 more years.
Okay? I was reading in Ezekiel and the Most High put that on me. And I was reading, I was, wow, okay. That makes sense according to Daniel, the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters. Totally makes sense to what Christ was saying in Matthew.
So 2019 is
Approximately when,
the last 50th Jubilee,
correct,
and approximately when
when,
Messiah is coming back.
correct, the consummation of Christ.
Yeah.
You don't have that much time, people. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
This year went so quick already,
It says time's gonna speed up.
and that's what's happening.
Okay? Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Wow.
For those of you who haven't seen the 70 weeks of Daniel teaching that we have, then I would highly suggest that you watch that teaching, because that teaching will correspond to what we just talked about in Ezekiel, the 4th chapter. So let's get to the Feast of Maccabees. I'm sorry, the Feast of Dedication. Let's talk about that for a second. Antiochus and the Greeks had defiled the temple of the Most High. Okay? When the Greeks, we all know that the 4 beasts of Daniel, the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans. When the Greeks came through, they did more than just take over our land.
Oh, yeah.
They sabotaged the temple. They sacrificed unclean animals in the temple. They did all kinds of murderous things to us. Okay? Until a person, his name is Judas Maccabees, not Judas of the Bible, which all Christians seem to know.
His life was a scary arch.
Okay?
22 years.
Judas Maccabees came through, and those people led a revolt against the Greeks. Okay? And it should be called, this festival is a festive festival. This festival is not about like the trumpets or the Day of Atonement. Those are solemn feasts. This should be a festive feast. Okay? And I'm going to show you that. It should be a festive feast. You should also remember to use that this feast is about the temple. What is the temple now?
Our bodies.
Our bodies. Okay. It should not be called the Feast of Lights. Okay? Alright. We're going to start in the Bible. We're going to go to the Apocrypha, and then we're going to end in the Bible. So let's get Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, and let's read it.
Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen.
Learn not the way of the heathen.
And be not dismayed at the signs of
When
heaven.
it says be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, it's not talking about stars and all this other stuff. When it says be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, what that really means is that don't be dismayed at all the things that are going on around you during this time of year.
Oh.
It doesn't mean don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven. You looking up into heaven and wondering what's going on. No, it's about the atmosphere that is around these wicked holidays from October 31st up until after January 1st. Go ahead.
For the customs of the people
For the heathen,
for the heathen are dismayed at them.
they're dismayed at them. You see all kinds of stuff that's going on in the world today. The heathen are dismayed at them. At the news, they'll put it on there. They'll put everything that has to be associated with this wicked time. They'll put that on the news.
But they're having a ugly sweater, December 25th ugly sweater. So,
Strange apparel in the book of Zephaniah. Verse 3.
For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe.
So see, when you are discussing, I don't do December 25th, you ain't got to get all hyped up and mad at people. Just tell them, if you know the Bible, if you have one, no matter what script, no matter what version, read Jeremiah 10. I told a few people at work that this week. I don't have to debate on why I don't do December 25th. Read Jeremiah 10, 1 through 4. Or 5. Read.
That was the end of it.
Verse 4.
They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
What else could that possibly be? People say, well, that's the Old Testament. What else? What tree do you bring in your house and you put silver and gold on it, i.e. ornaments, and you fasten it with nails so it doesn't move? There's only one tree that could possibly be. Go ahead.
They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not.
Why does the Bible say that? They're upright as a palm tree, but they speak not. It's not talking about the actual tree. It's talking about the people who come against you.
oh.
Read.
They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good.
The Bible is talking about the people who are celebrating these pagan holidays and not following the holy days of the Most High. Now, the Feast of Dedication isn't considered a holy day by the Most High. Those holy days are in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. But, as we're going to find out today, there is a specific reason why Israelites should celebrate the Feast of Dedication. There it is, the abomination. Then it has the star of Moloch on top of it. All praises to the satanic god of Christmas. That's what you're saying.
What was behind?
When we go into December 25th teaching, we're going to go in depth on this thing. Okay? Let's get Amos chapter 5, verses 20 through 26. And let's read them.
Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light?
The day of the Lord is darkness. When the day of the Lord comes around, it's not going to be festive. People are going to be running scared out of their minds. Those who are in the truth are going to be celebrated. Go ahead.
Even very dark, and no brightness in it. I despise your feast days.
That's the Most High talking. Read.
And I will not smell in your solemn assembly.
So he's not going to listen to your prayers. Go ahead.
Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts.
So your dinner table that you place in front of the Most High, and you're saying, oh, we thank Jesus for this wonderful meal. We thank Jesus for this great ham glazed pork with pineapples on it. We thank the Most High, we thank God and Jesus for this wonderful well-cooked turkey. We thank Jesus for this and that. That's not, the Most High ain't smelling or hearing that.
Wow.
Then he goes into the carols. Let's read it.
Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy vows.
Most of those Christians' Christmas songs are pagan. They are honoring Satan.
Yeah.
We're going to show that on December 25th. On that, when we do that teaching. Read.
But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel?
Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness? He's asking, he's not asking a question. It's rhetorical.
Oh, yeah.
He's not asking, have you done it? Don't you think the Most High knows? 26.
But ye have borne the tabernacles of your Moloch and chewing Cheyenne, your images, the star of your God, which you made to yourselves.
What?
Now, I know what Moloch, what is the...
Chin is the same thing. Chin is the same thing. What? The star of Moloch, and we all know what the star of Moloch is, right?
Yeah.
It's on the Israel flag,
It's
the six-pointed star.
Oh, yeah.
So-called star of David.
And they call it the Star of David when there was no Star of David. Okay?
The Lion of the Edomites.
Isaiah chapter 1, verse 13 through 16. These scriptures are why we should honor and celebrate the Most High's holy days and not the pagan holidays. Go ahead.
Bring no more oblations, incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with it. It is iniquity. Even the solemn meeting.
Take your time. So the Most High is saying that everything that you're doing is in vain. When those people were getting beat up on Black Friday, that was in vain.
Just those videos.
When people are out there and they're spending all kinds of money on December 25th, which is Tammuz's birthday, that's in vain. It's in vain. Women getting beat up over 40-inch TVs, it's in vain. It's in vain. Verse 14. And this is why we don't follow no blue moon or red moon and all that other stuff. The Most High totally forbids against doing that.
Yeah.
But people don't read. And people who claim themselves as being Christians or even some Israelites don't read the Bible. Well, yeah, we got this new moon that's coming up. And the red moon, you got a full moon, red moon and black moon and green moon and all this other kind of stuff.
Well, you know they reference that to Revelation, where it talks about the moon becomes a
It
blood.
has nothing to do with Revelation.
No, it don't.
Ignorance. Go ahead.
Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth.
What? Your moons and your appointed feast, my soul hates.
Wow.
Go ahead.
They are a trouble unto me.
They are a trouble unto me.
I am weary to bear them.
I am weary to bear them.
It's Isaiah.
This is Isaiah chapter 1. Verse 15 and read.
And when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you.
How many times do you see this?
Oh.
Around the table.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. How many times have we seen this? Your hands being spread out to the heavens, Thanking Father for that delicious ham with glaze and with cherries and pineapples on it. Thank you, Father. I'm going to show you what our people was forced to do in Maccabees. Go ahead.
When you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood.
Full of blood. Go ahead.
Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil.
Cease to do evil. Stop it. Just stop. Well, I got to do Easter because my grandma, Kirksey, she used to have a big hat on Easter, and we used to have a big feast on Easter. I can't break from doing Easter.
Now,
Excuse making.
I have a question for you. Why, and because I know people go through seminary school, they have to have come across these scriptures.
Yeah. Seminary school, they cherry pick scriptures.
But even as a man of the Most High, wouldn't they at least in their own studies
They don't study.
come across this scripture?
No one studies. No one reads. These scriptures are not scriptures to make somebody feel good.
Well, how do you be an elder of a church and you don't read?
Let's go up here and ask this one on the corner. Proverbs chapter 28 verses 9 and 10. Let's read it.
He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination.
If you turn away from the law, your prayers are an abomination unto Father. You have to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Bible.
And what for your prayers to be heard?
Correct. Verse 10.
Whoso causeth the righteous to go astray in an evil way, he shall fall himself into his own pit. But the upright shall have good things in possession.
You have to be careful how you treat people. All right, so now let's learn about the Feast of Dedication. Now we know what the Most High feels about these holidays. Let's talk about the Holy Day, Feast of Dedication. We're going to be a lot in the Apocrypha. If you haven't read the Apocrypha, or if you don't have one, I would suggest you get one. Okay? First, let's get the scripture in John, which talks about the Feast of Dedication. Okay? And then we'll get to the Apocrypha. That's John chapter 10, verses 19 through 22. And let's read it.
There was a division therefore again among the Jews for these sayings. And many of them said, He hath a devil and is mad. Why hear ye him?
So he was casting out devils and everything. This is Yeshaya. He was casting out devils. He was healing the sick. And they said that he does it with a devil in him. Remember that? Verse 21.
Others said, These are not the words of him that hath a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind?
Some of them were a little smart. Can the devil do the miracles that Christ was doing? Go ahead.
And it was at Jerusalem that the feast of the dedication, and it was winter.
So right there it tells us, number one, that Christ honored the Feast of Dedication. Number two, it was winter. Where are we at now? We're in winter.
Winter.
Okay? But let's get a little more solid. All right, we're going to be solely in 1st and 2nd Maccabees out of the Apocrypha. Okay? So we're in 1st Maccabees, chapter 1. This is going to be verses 7 through 28. A little background on this. Okay? A little background on this. Alexander the Great, or Greek, died. Okay? He's dead now. So now the kingdom is in a, it's not split as of yet. Okay? Alexander the Great is just recently passed. And now they're going to attack Jerusalem. Okay? So, it's a lot that we got to cover. Alright? So, 1st Maccabees chapter 7, we're going to be at verses 7 through 28. Okay? And let's read it.
So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died. and his servant bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth.
Evils were multiplied in the earth because the Greek pagan deities was being spread all over the earth. Remember, Alexander the Greek conquered most of the known world. Okay? Very fast. So now all that stuff is being spread out all over the place. The evil and the wickedness. Verse 10. That's Epiphanes.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king.
Okay, that's Antiochus.
Antiochus, the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Verse 11.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Verse 12.
So this device pleased them well.
Okay.
But mine's not reading like that.
Okay, well.
My chapter 7.
You're not in, we're in chapter 1.
Oh.
Okay, so now, what's happening here is that there were Israelites who was saying, okay, we're in much pain over these Greeks. So let us make a covenant with them so they can ease off the burdens. We're going to find out one of these who led a revolt later on. Okay? Verse 13. And let's read verse 13 and hold.
Then certain of the people were so forth herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
What do you need to drive?
License.
A license. What do you need to get married?
License.
A license. What do you need to go hunting?
A license.
A license. So where did that come from? It came from Greece. Where you have to have a license to do everything. You're following the ways of the heathen. You can't drive. Back in those days, you could ride a horse or a camel without having a license. You could go wherever you want. Now, you can't go anywhere unless you got a license. If you don't have a license, then you're stuck on their public transportation, and you still have to pay to ride on their public transportation. They get you both ways. It's the same thing. We're not in slavery as far as chains and shackles on our hands and feet, but we're still in slavery. Verse 14.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
According to the customs of the heathen. Verse 15.
And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
They were sold to do mischief. Okay. Verse 16.
Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus,
You're going to see that a lot.
he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy.
Now this is important because up until this point they were not using elephants in battle. The Greeks were the first to use elephants in battle. Horses was used in battle with Medo-Persians. That's what they was using horses for. Horses were always used in battle, but they never used elephants in battle before the Greeks. Now they use them. That's why Greek went so fast. Following me. Okay. 18. And that's Ptolemy. Let's read it.
And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death.
They crushed Egypt. Greece crushed Egypt very fast. 19.
Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. After that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
Save the best for last. He done conquered everybody else. Now it's time to get those Israelites. Go ahead.
He entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread and the pouring vessels and the vials, and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
Now this is the second time that this has happened to the temple. The first time it was because of our disobedience, and the Most High put a spirit on Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, to come in and raid the temple. This time they were actually following things of the Most High, sort of. And they came in and they raided everything. But they did some other stuff too. Verse 23 and read.
He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels, and he took the hidden treasures which he found.
Verse 24.
And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly.
He was speaking proudly of slaying everybody. This is Antiochus. Let's read.
Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beautiful of women were changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she sat in the marriage chamber with an heaviness.
You gotta speak up. Slow down. Go ahead.
The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
So there was a lot of confusion going on. They were wondering, we're serving the Most High. How is all this stuff coming about us? What is going on? Beforehand, we weren't serving the Most High, and we knew why we were being atrocitized. But why is this going on right now? What's happening with us right now? It was confusion all over the place. They did not understand and did not know why is this happening to us. Okay? So let's get 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verses 31 through 36. And let's see what the Greeks did. Go ahead.
And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side.
He went in to destroy Jerusalem altogether. Go ahead.
But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and the mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
What does that sound like? We'll find out later. Go ahead, verse 35. Verse 35. Go ahead.
They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and they became a sore snare.
Verse 36.
For it was a place to lie and wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel.
So they were camped in Jerusalem. They were camped in Jerusalem. The enemy, the Greeks, were outside of Jerusalem. 70 AD. 135 AD. Same thing, except these aren't Romans, these are Greeks, which pretty much are almost the same anyway. So that was the Holy Temple of Solomon. That's how it was orchestrated. Okay, that's how it was built. Okay, you had the outer courts where you had the tubs for, I forgot what that was for. Then you had the inner courts. You had the altar of the incense, which we have a Bible study on. We haven't done it yet, but we will. We have the altar of incense over there at the top, right about here. I don't know the pointer, but right here. Then you had the actual temple of Solomon's temple. They came in and they destroyed, they took everything.
Can't see that bottom line.
Is this 70 AD?
No, this is the Maccabees. This is well before 70 AD. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 37 through 41. Okay? And let's read it.
Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
And defiled it. They killed everybody. Go ahead.
Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and become strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be done to the people.
That all should be one people. So what he's saying is that you can't call yourself Israelites no more. You're going to call yourselves Greeks. Today, you're not going to call yourself Israelites no more. You're going to call yourself African American, Native American, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican. The same thing. The exact same thing. Okay? The exact same thing. History repeats itself.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And history is repeating itself again. So some ignorant person, they couldn't spell Hanukkah. So they had all kind of Hanukkah, Chanukah, or whatever, and then just say Jewish Christmas. That's pretty much what Hanukkah is. And we're going to get into the menorah also.
So this is when the Greeks took over our people. That's not
Right.
70 AD with the Romans, right?
Correct. But I'm showing how it parallels, how it's the same. How it was the same.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So we're still in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to be at verses 42 to 45. Okay? And let's read it because it's kind of interesting.
And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
They do it today. You don't have to follow the laws anymore. There is no law for the Sabbath. There is no dietary law. There is no fornication law. There is none of these laws. You don't have to do that no more because the blood of Jesus redeemed us from the curse of the law. There is no blood of Jesus here because Jesus ain't came yet. Well, the Shia hasn't came yet. But still, they told us that you're not going to follow your laws. Martial law. Verse 43.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
So that's why the Most High put that covering off of the Israelites. Because instead of them standing, we're going to see a few who stood up. But instead of them standing up and saying no, they went on ahead with it. Just like today. What?
The heathen agreed. So all the heathen agreed.
Yeah, of course the heathen are going to agree, but we're at 43. The Israelites consented to it. The Israelites said, okay, we're going to follow your laws. We're going to sacrifice to Zeus. We're going to sacrifice to Aphrodite. We're going to do all that. Whatever it is you're telling us, we're going to do it. We're going to go to your educational system and learn Greek. Verse 44.
For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings,
No more offerings.
and sacrifice, and drink
No
offerings
more drink offerings.
in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days.
So you can go and shop on the Sabbath. It's okay. You can go to the market on the Sabbath. In fact, you better go to the market on the Sabbath. You don't serve the festival days. You're going to serve some Saturnalia. I'm sorry, that's Roman. But still, you're going to follow Saturnalia. Or you're going to follow the summer solstice.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. You're going to follow Easter. There was an Easter back then. You're going to follow that. Okay?
What our people's doing.
No more following the blowing of trumpets. And you better not blow any trumpets. No more Day of Atonement. No more doing the scapegoat thing. If we catch you doing it, you're dead. That's what they told them. We're going to see that later. Okay? We're still in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verses 46 to 50. Okay? I would highly encourage, because we're jumping around, but I would highly encourage reading 1st and 2nd Maccabees.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Go ahead.
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh, and eat an unclean beast.
Now, the Bible specifically says swine's flesh. I'm going to show you later on. But, what are groves?
Like the local line of trees or something.
Yeah. What do they do with those trees? What do they do with that tree? What do they do with the groves?
Make wine.
No. No.
Those tall trees.
What do they do at the grove? It mentions groves. What do they do with the groves?
San
They can do
Francisco,
that.
California, what they do there?
Burn them.
What does Esau do? Bohemian Grove.
Oh, so like they
Groves.
go there and like.
They
Oh, yeah.
worship the trees because the trees represent a male penis.
Yeah.
So they built these groves and have sex orgies in these groves.
Yes. So what they do at Bohemian Grove?
They do the same thing, but they do it with children.
And they sacrifice children, all that.
Okay? All right. We're going to get into swine's flesh especially later. Okay? Verse 48, and let's read it.
That they should also leave their children uncircumcised.
Don't cut off the foreskin of your children on the 8th day that they were born. Don't do that. Leave them uncircumcised like we are. Most High gave us circumcision for health and spiritual reasons. Let's finish.
And make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
They do it. It's today.
Highlight that. I gotta highlight
They
that.
have changed the laws today. The Most High's laws put their laws in place so that we can forget the laws of the Most High.
So when you have that person that tells you that the law is done away with, you can show them in that as well as in the Bible. I like that. Wow. So that it shows right there what they were doing. That's why they took this out of the Bible.
That's why it's not in the Bible.
Yeah.
Because if churches was teaching this, then people would understand why they're in the condition they're in now. And they will come out of that condition. 50.
And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
You are going to die.
Wow.
It would be like Barack Obama declaring martial law and saying that there's a 7 o'clock curfew. And if you're not in your house at 7 o'clock, you are going to be shot by military police. It's coming, people. It's coming. The Bible ain't a liar. It's coming. And we're going to discuss that more in January. This is in defiance of the Most High. This is in defiance. First of all, it's Hanukkah. But what day is it starting on? What day is that?
Sunday.
Sunday. See how that's in defiance of the Most High? When he declares we're to go Sabbath to Sabbath, Saturday to Saturday.
Yeah.
And then it ends on when? Now our holy day ends on next week's Sabbath.
Yeah, Sabbath to Sabbath.
But this ends when?
Monday.
Total outright disrespect of the Most High. All right, First Maccabees, chapter 1, verses 54 to 58. That's Caslu.
Now the 15th day of the month, Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burned incense at the doors of their houses and in the street.
That's mocking, because we were burning incense to the Most High. They are mocking the Most High when they burn incense, because they didn't burn incense at the doors of the houses. They only burned incense at the altar of the incense.
Right.
56.
And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire.
They burned our books.
Wow.
They burned our books. They destroyed our books. So we would have no record on who we are as a people. So we would have no knowledge on how we are to operate on this earth.
Yeah, what our laws are. Yeah.
They destroyed them. The Greeks destroyed them. We're setting something up here. Verse 57 and read.
And whosoever was found with the book of the testament, or of any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
Okay, that's happening now. That's going to happen. You walking around with a King James Bible, that's going to be considered hatred. And they're going to arrest you because that book is going to be outlawed. The homosexuals ain't going to stand for this book to continue to go on. No matter how many, no matter how much they say David and Jonathan were relations together.
Oh,
Christ was gay, or Christ was bisexual, and all this other heathenistic crazy talk. Paul wasn't married because Paul was gay.
Yeah.
58.
Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities.
To their authority. All right. Still in First Maccabees, the first chapter, verses 59 to 64. Okay. Go ahead.
Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the altar, the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High.
Yep.
At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
So the women who decided, I'm going to follow the Most High, I'm not going to follow you, they were put to death. They were put to death. The men were already dead. A lot of the men were already gone. We read that earlier. And let's see what happened to the children. Verse 61.
And they hanged the infants about their neck and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised
So
them.
not only are they checking out their little peepees to make sure that they're not circumcised, but the ones who were, they hung them. They lynched them. They lynched the infants that were circumcised. You want to sit up there and not follow our laws? We're going to murder every one of your children.
But you know, I can't.
It's abortion today. Except our ignorant women go willingly to the abortion clinic. Go ahead.
Howbeit many in Israel were full, resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So when they died.
Verse 64.
And there was a very great wrath upon Israel.
Very great wrath upon Israel. So the men are being killed. The women are being killed. The ones who are circumcising their child and following the Most High. The infants are being hung.
Because they were circumcised.
Because they were circumcised. They're following. They are not eating anything unclean. The Greeks are telling them, you better eat this. And they refused. So they would be killed. We're going to show a specific family and what happened to them. Okay? Because the king needed some entertainment. What better entertainment than to put a slab of swine in front of an Israelite and make him eat it?
Wow.
We're going to see that later.
That's just wrong.
So the people started crying out to the Most High. Okay?
Wow.
First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 50 through 60. Okay? And let's read it.
Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low.
The priests were just they were just worn out. They didn't know what to do. 52.
And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O power, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice.
So they were crying with a loud voice. They were praying. The ones who were keeping the law, statutes, and commandments in secret, they were praying and asking, Father, what is it? What can we do? Okay? Now let's get to Judas. Verse 55.
And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands and over hundreds, and over 50s and over 10s.
So Judas was saying, and this is Judas Maccabees, not Judas Iscariot. Let's not get it confused. Judas is saying, okay, I done had enough of this. We need to get together. We need to fight against the Greeks. 56.
But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return, every man to his own house according to the law.
So he was basically gathering up an army without soldiers. 57, and that's Amos.
So the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Amos. And Judas said, arm yourselves and be violent men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us, to destroy us and our sanctuary.
So he said, you know what, we got to get up, we got to fight. We cannot allow the Greeks to come messing with our sanctuary, with our tabernacle, with anything that we got going on here. Men, are you going to fight or are you going to lay down and just take it? 59.
For it is better for us to die in battle
It is better for us to die in battle
than to behold the calamities of our people.
than to behold calamities of our people and our sanctuary. It's better for us to die fighting than to sit here and take all this stuff.
That's right.
Verse 60.
Nevertheless, as the will of the Most High is in heaven, so let him do.
Let him do. Let him do. Stop always running from a fight. Stop always running away. I can't take this. Stop it. Stand up. Be a man. Be a woman. Stand up for your rights. As long as they're under the Most High. Don't stand up for lesbianism. Don't stand up for transgenderism. Okay? Alright, First Maccabees, that's Gorgias, which is another word for Greek. Okay? First Maccabees chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. So now the Greeks, they saw what Judas Maccabees was doing. So let's see what they're doing. Let's read.
Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night. And the enemy might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides.
Okay, we gotta do better with the reading because it's starting to sound choppy. Okay, let's get it. Let's get it. Okay, so the Greeks are coming. Okay, the Greeks are coming. Judas Maccabees is setting up his defense, and the Greeks are saying, "Wait a minute, you're not following our laws. You're doing this. You're doing that. We're gonna come against you." All right, First Maccabees chapter 4, verses 3 through 9. Okay, and let's read it.
Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant man with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emmaus. While as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp, in the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For said he, "These fellows flee from us." But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor sword to their minds.
They didn't have any weapons. 3,000 men, and they didn't have any weapons at all. But the Greeks had weapons.
And the Maccabees are the Israelites.
Correct. Verse 7, let's read it.
And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong, and was well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen. And these were expert of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, "For ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault."
Fear not the multitude of them. Be not afraid, because I'm going to quote you scripture. Verse 9.
Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army.
Okay, we're starting to tail off. Let's keep it going. So remember Pharaoh and the army. Pharaoh, remember that. Remember when Pharaoh was chasing us down. Remember what the Most High did to Pharaoh and his army. Don't you think that the Most High can do the same thing with us?
Yes, he can.
Don't you think the Most High can sit there and smite them? Remember the 140,000 soldiers that Christ came through and slaughtered. Remember that.
Yep, they didn't have no weapons.
Okay? Remember that.
So what you're saying to me, it doesn't matter if Obama passed a no gun law, they take your weapon, you don't need a gun.
Correct.
They say that wasp spray, it sprays, it's deadly and it sprays like 20 feet away. Maybe you don't need a gun, but you need some lawsuits for it. Okay, he says he's better than pepper spray. That police tell you like it's better for you to use that because it will like it has more potency like to blind an attacker than pepper spray being up close.
Well, we're not gonna need any of that.
Well, the police, they are starting to get weapons where it doesn't kill anybody. It immobilizes them. They're starting to do that. First Maccabees chapter 4, verses 10 through 15. I'll read verse 15. 10 to 14, go ahead.
Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, and peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. That so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel.
All the heathen are going to know that the Most High God is still over the throne in Israel.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judah sounded their trumpets.
So they're blowing the trumpets, and this discombobulated them. Read.
So they joined the battle, and the heathen being discomfited, fled into the plain.
Fled into the plain. They ran. Here come these Israelites. Here come Issachar, and here comes Gad, and here comes Judah, and here comes Naphtali. And they're blowing trumpets. They don't have swords. They don't have anything. They're coming blowing trumpets. These people must be crazy. Howbeit, all the hindsmost of them were slain with the sword. For they pursued them into Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, and to Azotus, and to Jamia, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. So they hid into lands of Esau.
Well, I thought maybe when you read earlier in the scriptures where they had gave a decree like there was no blowing of the trumpets, I knew they knew there was power in that. That's why they made that decree.
Correct.
No blowing the trumpets. They knew there was power in that.
Correct. All right, First Maccabees chapter 4, verses 21 through 25. Now this is where the Israelites won, got the victory. Okay, let's read it.
When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid. And seeing also the hosts of Judah in the plain ready to fight.
They were saying, okay, these guys are ready to fight. They're coming with trumpets and everything else. What are we going to do? Read.
They fled everyone into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea, and great riches.
So they got their stuff back. Read.
After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving.
Not the heathen Thanksgiving holiday, but they sung a song of thanksgiving to the Most High God. Go ahead.
And praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever.
Haven't we heard that before in Psalms? 25.
Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day.
Deliverance that day. Israel was delivered. The heathen were ran out of Jerusalem. They were delivered. But see, later on, something's going to happen. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 26 to 29. And let's read it.
Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened.
Lysias, we're going to find out who he is later. He's a Greek. Okay? We're going to find out who he is later. Well, we'll find out now. Read.
Who, when he heard thereof, he confounded and discouraged.
He was confounded and discouraged. What? I got this great army, and these Israelites coming blowing trumpets, and you all ran. Go ahead.
Because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass.
So the king commanded him to do certain things, and it wasn't going to happen. So he's more afraid of the king and what the king was going to do to him. 28.
The next year, therefore, following Lysias, gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot, and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them.
So when Esau gets mad, he retaliates with more numbers than you. When Esau gets upset, he's not going to sit back and say, oh, that's just so fine. He's going to say, okay, you want to sit up there and fight? I'm going to bring more men now. We're going to fight because the God of Israel cannot handle the numbers that we have. 29.
So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents.
Idumea is who? For those of you who should know, what's in the land? What people are in the land of Idumea?
The Idumeans?
The Idumeans.
The so-called Jewish people over there, they are doing it.
Yeah.
Who she say?
She said Idumeans.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
And pitched their tents at Bethshura. And Judas met them with 10,000 men.
Now Judas said, okay. Judas, remember, he only had 3,000 men. When they became victorious, Judas now has 10,000 men. So what that tells you is that people need to see something prospering, or people need to see some type of victory before they're going to get enough courage to come and fight.
Yeah.
Then Judas does something that no general in the army would ever do. He went into prayer. Prayer of a righteous man is much better than 10,000 soldiers. Prayers of a righteous man that are heard from the Most High can do wonders in your household. Prayers of a righteous man, or a few righteous men, can change the United States of paganism into what it truly, well, it truly shouldn't be done. All right, let's get 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verses 30 through 33. And this is the prayer that Judas said to the Most High God. Let's read it.
And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David.
We're going to do a teaching probably in February or so about the mighty men of David.
Yes.
We're really going to find out who these men are and how they became the mighty men of David. They're all from Judah. Read.
He gave us the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his arm bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen.
That prayer was prayed once before, and it worked. Go ahead. 32.
Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction.
There's scripture, cast your cares upon the Lord. They didn't sit up there and say, you know what, guys, we got to do an armory, and we got to have tactics going, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. They didn't say none of that. They went to prayer to Father. We need to know how to go to prayer for Father when we're in dire needs, or when we're in circumstances, or when everything is quiet.
That's right.
Let's read.
Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving.
That everyone who knows you praise you. And then here comes another battle. So Lysias has his army. Judas has his army. We haven't even got to the Feast of Dedication yet.
No.
And why the Feast of Dedication is being called. This is a history on how it became. 34 through 37. Maccabees, First Maccabees, I apologize. First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 34 through 37. And it's right there in the Apocrypha, which used to be in the Bible. Except it's in the Catholic Bible. They didn't take it out. Okay, let's read.
So they joined battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready to either live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again into Judea.
So Lysias saw that, okay, these men, they're fighters. You look at the true Judah, true Naphtali, true Gad, true Issachar, true Benjamin, true. If you look at those true men, they are fighters. They're not going to sit back and just waver and, compromise. Those men of the Most High are true warriors. And Lysias saw this. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to have to double this army. Verse 34.
So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers. And having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea.
He's coming back. Go ahead.
Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are confitted. Let us go upon the cleanse. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
So there was all kinds of stuff in the sanctuary, which we're going to get to. But Judas was like, they're confused, they're discombobulated. Let's go and cleanse our temple. Read.
Upon this all, the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion.
Went to Zion. First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 53 through 61. This is the dedication. Go ahead.
And offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citharins and harps and cymbals.
So they had musical instruments. It was a festive time now. Go ahead.
Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the power of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. And
8 days. They kept the dedication 8 days. Go ahead.
And offered burnt offerings with gladness.
With gladness. Remember, the holy days in September was not about gladness. They weren't about gladness. This is a festival of gladness, of joy, of happiness for what had happened. There's more. Read.
And the sacrifice of deliverance and praise.
They just was going off. They had a party and a celebration that had never been seen before, even in Solomon's array.
Woo! Wow.
Which was pretty big. Because when Solomon did it, he did it big.
Yeah.
Okay? Verse 57.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, And the gates of and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them.
They remodeled everything.
Fix it up.
Everything. 58.
Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days.
There you go. They ordained it that the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season. Judas and his brethren did that. The Most High did not say they had to, but they were so overwhelmed and said, okay, we have to do this because this is good. So we have to do this every single year for 8 days. Verse 60.
At that time also, they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before.
They were fortifying because they knew that, okay, they didn't came twice already. We know they're going to come back again because that's what Esau does. Go ahead. 61.
And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea.
Against the Idumeans, the fake Jews, the whites. Let's briefly take a look at the heathen days. So let's take a look at this for a second. Maybe we'll get an understanding. March, which is Easter, is the consummation of Samarius and Nimrod. Samarius was Nimrod's mother / wife. That's perversion all in itself.
Incest.
Never married my mother.
People from Kentucky, we are very sorry about that comment.
What is wrong with
All right, so what happened, Samarius and Nimrod, the mother and the son got together. They consummated on Easter. 9 months later, if you count March to December, that's 9 months, Tammuz was born. That's Christmas.
I thought Nimrod was dead
No, Nimrod was not dead.
one time.
Nimrod was dead after this. After he went into his mother,
Then he died.
conceived, he died, and then Samarius said, oh, Nimrod died, but he impregnated me by the rays of the sun.
Stupid.
And people believe
His
it.
son died.
That's why Nimrod is called the sun god, and Samarius is called the moon. Okay? We'll get into that when we do teaching on December 25th. The menorah. Talk about that for a second. The candlestick was the menorah. The menorah was removed. The menorah was a way when we would celebrate the feast of dedication. We would light the candles up on each day to represent. I'm going to show you what it represents later. It represents 7 sons.
So should we do that?
You can do a menorah. You can light it. But the thing of it is that it's not to take the place of worship.
Right.
That's what the Jews, the Jewish powers do now.
And they made a song about it.
They worship the menorah. You're not supposed to worship any idol or anything. If you want to get a menorah and you want to light, and I'm going to show you why there's 7 in the menorah. Not because of the days, because we have 8 holy days. We have 8 days, right?
Right.
But there's a reason why we have 7 candles on there, and I'm going to show you in Maccabees. Okay? Every day is not a Sabbath, so let me explain this. This is not a Sabbath like the Feast of Tabernacles, where every day had to be a Sabbath.
Right.
This is different. The Feast of Dedication only has a Sabbath on the first day and on the 8th day. They celebrated and honored and did everything that they did in between there. But those are not Sabbaths, because this is not a Sabbath or a holy day that was told by the Most High to keep. It was a man's, Judas, giving an ordinance to keep it. See the difference?
Yeah.
Understand the difference. Now, with that being said, if you want to celebrate the full Feast of Dedication as a Sabbath on each day, that's totally fine. If you want to get a menorah and light the candle on the menorah, that's fine. But don't let anything take the place of the Most High. Okay? Let's get back to the Feast of Dedication. Let's go to 1 Maccabees. We're going to chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. Before we get that, pause it.
Go and take care of some business.
What you got?
All right,
what are you
so,
doing?
1 Maccabees, chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. And let's read.
When the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much.
They were angry when the Idumeans, the Greeks, when, let's just put it what it is, when the Caucasians, the white people, heard that the temple was being built by those Negroes again, by those other racial terms again, yeah, they got displeased. Anytime that any class of people who they consider us as being minorities, anytime we rise up for right with the Most High, they're coming on. They're going to come at us. Verse 2.
Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them, and thereafter they began to slay and destroy the people.
When it says the generation of Jacob, it means all 12 of those tribes. Now, one thing that is not really taught is that even though the 10 tribes, maybe 400 years earlier, were already gone, there was still remnant of them left. Okay?
But
Let's not be solely ignorant that all of Naphtali is gone to the South Seas, or all of Simeon is in the Dominican, or all of Reuben is in the Isle of Florida as the Seminole Indians.
at this point, are the tribes still together, or are they spread out now?
At this point,
Yeah.
no, the 10 tribes are already over in the so-called Americas. This is during the Greek captivity.
Okay.
Now there was some remnant of them that stayed, but the majority of the 10 tribes are gone. Verse 3.
Then Judas fought against the children of Esau in Idumea and Aramatime, because they besieged Gael and gave them a great overthrow, and abated their courage and took their spoils.
So Judas again had to come up, fighting against Idumeans.
And Judas again was what was
Judas
he?
Maccabee.
Oh,
He's
he
an
wasn't.
Israelite.
Oh, he was just Israelite. He wasn't like a priest or.
No, just a normal person.
He took
Okay.
leadership.
You go for Maccabees.
So now, let's get to Antioch and now I'm doing
Antiochus.
Antiochus. Okay? And here comes a new one. 1 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 16 to 22. And let's read it.
So King Antiochus died there in the 149th year. Now when Lysias knew that the king was dead, he set up Antiochus his son, who he had brought up being young, to reign in his stead, and his name he called Eupator.
So he brought him on his steed and called him his name. Changed his name because his name was Antiochus to Eupator. This is the new king now. Here comes the trouble. Verse 18.
About this time, they that were in the tower shut up the Israelites round about the sanctuary, and sought always their hurt, and the strengthening of the heathen.
So, once again, the only way to defeat us is to surround us, to keep us in one spot. But we still had Judas. Let's read verse 19.
Wherefore Judas, proposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. So they came together and besieged them in the 105th year, and he made mounts for shots against them and other engines.
When it says 150th year, that's 150 BC. Okay? Right, before Christ. We know that Rome started about 120 something BC. Okay? Verse 21.
Howbeit certain of them that were besieged got forth, unto whom some ungodly men of Israel joined themselves.
So you always going to have some ungodly people in your midst. 22.
And they went unto the king and said, How long will it be ere thou execute judgment and avenge our brethren?
So the king is saying, how long is it going to be? Because these Israelites, they defeated us I don't know how many times. We need revenge. Okay? But in verse 33, that is Beth Zacharias. Okay? In verse 33, that's Beth Zacharias. So first Maccabees 6:28 to 38. And let's read it. We already know why the Feast of Dedication was implemented, but we don't know why the Feast of Dedication is so important.
Right.
So let's find out. And we also don't know about let's read it.
Now when the king heard this, he was angry, and gathered together all his friends and the captains of his army, and those that had charge of the horse. And there came also unto him from the other kingdoms and from the isles of the sea bands of hired soldiers.
Mercenaries. Just hiring everybody he could possibly hire.
This was the Iconium.
This was the Greek king.
Okay.
Correct. Go ahead.
So that the number of his army was 100,000 footmen and 20,000 horsemen, and 32 elephants exercised in battle.
So they came with a whole brigade. At one point, it was only like 1,000, 3,000, 10,000. Now it's over 130,000, 120,000 now.
A lot of people didn't have any weapons.
Right. 31.
These went through Idumea and pitched against Bethshura.
They're always going through Idumea. Always going, which is right next to Israel. They always go through Idumea. Why? Because those are Esau children. Go ahead.
And pitched against Bethshura, which they assaulted many days, making engines of war. But they of Bethshura came out and burned them with fire and fought violently. Valiantly.
Go ahead.
Upon this, Judas removed from the tower and pitched in Beth Zacharias over against the king's camp. Then the king rising very early, marched fiercely with his host toward Beth Zacharias, where his enemies made them ready to battle and sounded the trumpets.
So they had their own trumpets. They were mocking the children of Israel. Okay? That's 34.
And to the end they might provoke the elephants to fight, they showed them the blood of grapes and mulberries. Moreover, they divided the beast among the armies, and for every elephant they appointed 1,000 men, armed with coats of mail, and with helmets of brass on their heads. And besides this, for every beast were ordained 500 horsemen of the beast. Best. These were ready at every occasion, wheresoever the beast was, and whithersoever the beast went. They went also, neither departed from him. And upon the beasts were strong towers of wood, and which covered every one of them, and were girt fast unto them with devices. There were also upon every one 32 strong men that fought upon them, beside the Indian that ruled him. As for the remnant of the horsemen, they sat them on this side and that side, at the two parts of the host, giving them signs what to do, and being harnessed all over amidst the ranks.
Now, verse 37, it talks about the Indian. Okay? So, it's not the Indian as far as what we know today. It's the Indian with the dot on their head.
In India.
So they gathered people from India also. So it wasn't just, it was the Greeks, it was the Idumeans, it was people from India. Any place that they could gather men to fight against us, that's what they did. Okay? So now the king, he's set up. He's getting set up now in Bethshura. So let's get 1 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 50 and 54.
So the king took Bethshura and set a garrison there to keep it. As for the sanctuary, he besieged it many days, and set there artillery with engines and instruments to cast fires and stones, and pieces to cast darts and slings. Whereupon they also made engines against their engines, and held them battle a long season. Yet at the last their vessels being without victuals, for that it was the 7th year, and they in Judea that were delivered from the Gentiles had eaten up the residue of the store. There were but a few left in the sanctuary, because the famine did so prevail against them that they were fain to disperse themselves, every man to his own place.
So again, they surround Jerusalem again. And they were saying, okay, we'll famish them out. That's what we'll do. We'll keep them bound up, so that way they'll starve. And they won't be so strong when we come up against them, because they'll be hungry. Okay? 1 Maccabees chapter 6, verses 58 to 63. And let's find out. Let's continue to find out what's going on. This also is not in your history books. However, it is in the Josephus. It is in certain manuscripts. But they won't teach this in your history book as far as what happened to the Greek Empire. This is what we're finding out. The Greek Empire was made low by this occasion. And the Greek Empire, Rome eventually came in. Basically what they did is they just took the more honorary Greeks and called them Romans and brought them in. That's all it was. It wasn't Romans conquering Greeks. It was so-called Greeks conquering themselves with stronger people, and they just named themselves Romans. It's in our history. We have to read it though. Let's read this.
Now therefore let us be friends with these men and make peace with them and with all their nations.
That's what they do. Psalms 55, I believe. They speak peace treaties, but in their heart there's war. Bless you. 59.
And covenant with them that they shall live after their laws as they did before. For they are therefore displeased and have done all these things because we abolished their laws. So the king and the princes were content, wherefore he sent unto them to make peace, and they accepted thereof. Also the king and the princes made an oath unto them, whereupon they went out of the stronghold. Then the king entered into Mount Zion, but when he saw the strength of the place, he broke his oath that he had made and gave commandment to pull down the wall round about.
Whole thing. So he basically went in and he saw that, oh, wait a minute. These men are strong. These men are courageous. I can't make a covenant with them because then they'll overtake me. 63.
Afterward departed he in all haste, and returned on to Antiochia, where he found Philip to be master of the city. So he fought against him and took the city by force.
So he basically said, okay, we got to get out of here real quick. Because these Israelites look, you know, it's like that little old tiny white lady walking down the street and two big brothers who don't even want to steal her purse is walking down the opposite street and that little white lady jet across the street. It's kind of like that. What happened next is they destroyed our records and they tried to get us to go against the laws of the Most High again. Again. But this time, they were coming to kill, steal, and destroy. 2 Maccabees chapter 2. We're in 2 Maccabees now. I would highly encourage you to read the rest of 1 Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 2. I'm only highlighting the Feast of Dedication. There's a lot more that went on.
Yeah.
Okay? 2 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 1 and 3, and let's read.
It is also found in the records that Jeremy the prophet commanded them that were carried away to take up the fire, as it has been signified.
Who's Jeremy?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah. Go ahead.
And how that the prophet, having given them the law, charged them not to forget the commandments of the Lord, and that they should not err in their minds, when they see images of silver and gold with their ornaments.
Earlier we read Jeremiah chapter 10. That's where they got it from.
Yep.
The decking of trees with silver and gold, and that's where they got images.
What does it mean when it says to take up the fire?
They put it to fire. They took the books and threw them in fire to burn it. Verse 3.
And with other such speeches exhorted he them that the law should not depart from their hearts.
So even though they were burning all of our records, the law should not depart our heart. We should know the 10 Commandments by heart.
But isn't it something our people should know? It's something very wrong if the Idumeans continue to try to make laws to keep us from following the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. That's when you say, okay, we're going to follow the Most High's laws more, you know, and really, you know, we take it serious. Because why do people keep trying to pull us away?
Right, because if we know who we are, there's power in that, and they already know that we're supposed to rule the earth. Now, how many of you, when you drove, you stopped at a stop sign?
Yep.
Have you ever ran past the stop sign?
Yes.
Did you do, when you ran past that stop sign, what did you feel?
Like I was gonna get caught.
So why don't we treat the Most High like that?
Message.
Why don't we treat the Most High like that? If I do anything on the Sabbath that I shouldn't be doing, then the Most High is going to get me.
No, he said he's gonna kill you, not get you. He said you're gonna die. That's the judgment for that. Break the Sabbath, you die.
Let's skip over to chapter 3. 2 Maccabees chapter 3 verses 7 through 11. So we got Selosira, and we have Phoenice in verse 8. Let's read.
What is it? Phoenice and what is that? Apollos?
Selosira and Phoenice. That's Doris.
Now, when Apollonius came to the king and had shewed him of the money whereof he was told, the king chose out of Helidonius his treasure, and sent him with the commandment to bring him the foresaid money. So forthwith Helidonius took his journey under a color of visiting the cities of Seleucia and Phineas, but indeed to fulfill the king's purpose. And when he was come to Jerusalem and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, he told him what intelligence was given of the money, and declared wherefore he came, and asked if these things were so indeed.
What can ruin a ministry?
Money.
Money. Money. What can ruin your walk with the Most High?
Money. Money is the root of all evil.
Money. That's what succumbed to us. Money. Verse 10.
Then the high priest told him that there was such money laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children.
So the
Government. Yeah.
Widows and fatherless children. The high priest is saying, here's a bunch of money for you, i.e. public aid. And here it is for your widows and for your fatherless children. We'll give you relief.
Depend on us.
So you're not supposed to do that as a ministry? Like, because I know some ministries, well, the ministry where I grew up in, it's like everybody within the church, they don't ask money to the government or nothing, but the church helps each other within the church. They call it it's like 10% of what you get on your check, it goes towards like the constructions, and they do different things like for the widows and like the people that are.
There's nothing wrong with that part of it.
No.
People in the church giving money to help people. That's what we're supposed to do. This is the government giving you money and saying, here, this is for your widows and your fatherless children. But there's a cost with the people inside giving money and helping. There's no cost to that. We're helping each other out. When the government starts to give you money, there's things that you're going to have to do to receive that money. So if people are sitting and they're helping each other out, and they say the church is saying, okay, 10% of what you make, you bring into the church, and we help out people, and they're actually helping people out.
Are you talking about tithing?
That's different.
10%?
Yeah, is that what you call it? In Spanish is diezmos. I don't know how you say it in English.
It's tithing. That's not a law.
It's like no, it's not a law by like it's. We understand that it's not in the Bible, but they do it within the churches. So like, and then when they have like different people that are in needs and stuff, and like the funny thing about it is where the church was like around the corner was like a big Catholic church, And whenever people needed help, like the Catholic people would send their own people to our church to get help.
Oh,
And he's like, no, we don't help you guys, but the church around the corner does. And we would like, but they go to your ministry. How are you sending people over here when they go to your ministry?
And the Catholic Church, we know have money.
Yeah, because we used to do like backpacks, like especially the youth, like with all the money and everything that we would give within the youth and like within the church, they would do, we would get like cheap backpacks and we would get them on sales. We would get book supplies and everything for the younger kids when they went to school and like that, for middle school and stuff. And that's called like you would help each other and like within the budgets, but.
It's not, because the Bible tells us that if you have a woman that's a widow, she's of an age, she's not of marrying age, the church is something, she has no kids or grandkids,
Yeah.
anybody to take
The
care of
church
her.
takes care of
The church supposed to take care of her.
Yeah.
Take care of you.
You're gonna take care of me.
Okay? Verse 11.
And that some of it belonged to Hyrcanus, son of Tobias, a man of great
Dignity.
dignity, and not as that wicked Simon had misinformed. The sum whereof in all was 400 talents of silver and 200 of gold.
One thing that I like about the Maccabees is that if you're wicked, they're going to say you're wicked. One thing about the book of Maccabees, when people are, and when it talks about people are wicked, these are Israelites who were wicked.
So who was the high priest? Was the Israelites still the high priest?
Yes, Israelites are still running the high priesthood.
Okay, so money laid up, okay.
The money came from who? The Greeks.
Oh yeah.
So the high priest was wicked.
There you go.
They was getting money from the Greeks.
Correct. That's that wicked Simon.
You didn't know that?
Okay. They always get us with money when, now, let's look at this for a second. The Most High was providing for us. We were blowing trumpets and killing people.
Right.
All of a sudden, this priest, or whoever he is, went to the king. The king showed him all this money. This is what we're going to give to you to help because of the quote-unquote peace treaty that they did. Here's the money. This is for your widows and your fatherless children. But there comes a cost to that. Flash. Let's get first, I'm sorry, 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verses 11 through 15. That's Eupolemus in chapter, verse 11. Eupolemus. Alright, let's read it.
And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for
Amnesty.
and aid. He took away and putting down the government which were according to the law. He brought up new customs against the law.
He brought up new customs against the law. So this is again, when you start accepting money, then you have to now succumb, 5013C.
Yeah.
You have to succumb now to the laws of the land. Verse 12.
For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself.
So they'll gladly do things for you once you succumb to that money. Go ahead.
And brought the chief young man under his subjection.
That is now going to seminary school. Go ahead.
And made them wear a hat.
Made them wear a hat. Back then we wore mitres and our head was uncovered.
Right.
Now they, with the Roman Catholic Church, their heads are covered.
The Jewish heads are covered too.
Yeah.
Idumeans, right?
Yes.
Their heads are covered with the fedora or whatever. Not fedora.
I don't know what it's
I
called.
forgot what it's called.
The sinfulness. That's what it's called.
But we know what it means.
So they make them wear a hat. Go ahead, verse 13. This is what they did as far as part of the peace treaty. Go ahead.
Now such was the height of Greek fashions, an increase of heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch and no high priest.
So once again, another one. That ungodly wretch, Jason, who was no high priest. Verse 14.
That the priests
Okay,
had
we can't keep doing this back and forth and in between scriptures. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
that the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar,
They didn't have any more courage. They were fat on the money.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise.
They kept giving them tributes after tributes, and the more money they got, the further they got away from the Most High. Read.
After the gain of disgust called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all.
They liked the money. They liked the money that Greece was giving them. They didn't want to be persecuted no more. They forgot what the Most High did to them did for them yet again.
So let me tell you this. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
This happened with Constantine after
Yes.
Christ died.
Yes, it did.
What happened?
We're going to get a teaching on 325 AD.
Yeah, so after that, Constantine, it was too many people. So he tried to join them, but what he did, he built temples for them.
Right.
He gave them money, all of that.
Same thing here, except he's not joining them. The king isn't about to become a Jew.
Well, Constantine didn't join them either.
Right.
He never accepted the Most High.
Right. So all that fighting and all that work that was done by Judas Maccabees.
And the people just...
Now here comes the hammer. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verses 1 through 6. This is what you get for serving Satan. Because that's pretty much what it is. Read.
Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High.
So they wanted everybody. It wasn't enough that the high priest and all the people who were in charge of the sacrifices, it wasn't enough that they were already conditioned. We now need to condition everybody. Everybody. Verse 2.
And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus.
Wait, read that again? Oh my
And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius.
Call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius. Now, for those of us who know mythology, Jupiter is who? Zeus. Jupiter is the Roman god who is the Roman head
The god of gods.
Like Zeus
The
is the
sacred
head
sage.
god of... Hold on a minute. Only one person can be talking at a time.
Right.
So Jupiter is the Roman god and Zeus is the Greek god. So how is this that the Greeks are calling Jupiter calling this Jupiter Olympius? Somebody explain that. Since everybody want to talk.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Romans messed up.
Because they are the same person, no?
I'm sorry?
They are the same person, like the Greeks turning to the Romans and the Romans.
Because they're the same person.
Yes, they're the same person.
Everybody knew that.
Okay, finish reading verse 2.
And that in Gardasim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place.
So they said, okay, take down that facade that says the temple of Solomon for the Most High and replace it with Jupiter Olympius.
That's what happened. It was taking the money.
Verse 3.
The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people.
The people was like, no way. No way. The priests already have sold out. The people were like, no, we're not going to do
But
that.
let's go back. Where do you think the Olympics games come from?
That comes from Greece.
Olympics, that's right.
That's the Olympics, which, no, that's also pagan.
Yeah.
Lighting a torch,
That's pagan.
Yeah.
rings,
Pagan.
What does Samaritans have? A torch.
a torch.
They're all those connected.
All is connected.
Verse 4.
For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots, and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful.
Now imagine this, Solomon's temple having whores in the temple. And having sex with the whores in the temple around the altar of all incense. Imagine whores in the Holy of Holies.
So they would be dead at that.
Imagine that.
I don't imagine that.
That was our people. Our people weren't allowed in there into the
But see,
Holy of Holies.
you have to know that's what's going on in these Christian churches today. The pastors have sold out. There's fornication. There's adultery. It's all this is going on up in these churches today.
It's the same thing.
Just different era, different time,
Different
different era. It's the same stuff that's going on.
Except now, back then, there's a much bigger group of people who are wanting to serve the Most High the correct way. Not like now.
I grew up in a Baptist church, and one of the girls who was my best friend, she used to have sex in the church basement with her boyfriend all the time. I was a little girl.
Verse 5.
The altar also was
That's
filled
sick. Go ahead.
with profane things, which the law forbiddeth.
It was filled, they were just putting everything in there. Verse 6.
Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a
He
Jew.
could not call himself an Israelite.
Wow.
He could not keep the Sabbath. He cannot keep the fast that they used to do. He couldn't do none of that. It was unlawful. What about birthdays? Remember when I said earlier that every time a birthday is celebrated, that there's murder? Let's see what happened on this king's birthday. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verses 7 through 9. And let's read it.
And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifice.
So they were told, they were having, this is entertainment. They would have the Israelites, and the Israelites were eating the food that was sacrificed to Jupiter, Mars, and all the rest of them. It gets even more. Go ahead.
And when the fast of Bacchus was
The fast of who?
Bacchus,
Who is Bacchus?
the church,
The fake Holy Spirit.
That's
was
right.
in the
Read.
churches.
was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in possession of Bacchus, carrying idols.
So that Bacchus spirit, we all know, is the fake Holy Spirit with people jumping around in church and gyrating and all that. They were forced to do that. Now you can go in any church and they'll just do it willingly. But back then, the ones who wanted to serve the Most High, they were forced to act like that.
Actually, the spirit of
Verse 8.
Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashion and be partakers of their sacrifices.
So they're basically saying you better do it. We know that Ptolemy was one of the 4 generals. He was the one who's over the Middle East at this time. Okay, let's read.
And whoso would not conform themselves,
Whoso would not what?
conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death.
Put to what?
Death.
So that means if you wasn't rolling around, hopping and skipping and jumping with that spirit of Bacchus, you would be put to what?
Death.
To death. Go ahead.
Then might a man have seen the present misery.
That's what they did. Oh, we got more. There's more. Some of us rebelled against the Greek oppression, though.
Yeah.
What was that?
That Bacchus is also the god of wine.
The Greek god
Yes.
Dionysus. That's why it makes it all like
Crazy.
yeah.
Right. We have that teaching for New Year's Eve. Dionysus. Okay? 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 10 and 11. Let's read what happened to these two women. Go ahead.
For there were two women brought who had circumcised their children, whom they had openly led round about the city, the babies hanging at their breasts. They cast them down headlong from the wall.
Hold there. Alright. So these two women, they had their children circumcised. Now, these sisters, I would like to meet these two. Because they boldly walked with their children, showing that they were circumcised around the town.
Wow.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
They
It was a
boldly.
law that you couldn't circumcise.
Okay, are we not following the teaching?
No, she just said.
They boldly had their children out, showing that, hey, we circumcised our kids. Not women today. Not women today. The law says not to circumcise your child. Ooh, I'm not going to do that. Or else you won't get this or you won't get that. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what the Most High says. Abortion clinics left and right. Thou shalt not kill. It's just a little pug. It's just a round piece of meat. It's not really a baby. Verse 11.
And others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly.
See, that's the problem. People nowadays, if they tell you not to do something that the Most High says to do, they said, you know what, I'm going to do whatever. Hiding in caves, celebrating the Sabbath. People nowadays, you know what, I don't care. Your job tells you, you better work on Saturday. Well, you told me I better do it, so I better do it. Instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do it because the Most High God, who I serve, says I shouldn't work on Sabbath.
But it also deals with faith. Because if you have a job and they command you to work, and you're telling them that you have to honor your faith, you can't work, a lot of people will still go in and fear losing their job instead of not going in and letting the Lord fight for them.
Very quick side note. The position that I have now, the position came about that I would have to work on a Saturday, every Saturday, and I would have to work Friday. I told them that I can't do it. I'll stay at my normal position because I am not going to work on the Sabbath. And I'm not going to sin against my God on Friday and Saturday to come in for you. They made preparations to have two positions open. One position was for me and the other position they gave to somebody else. So I would not have to work. So if you're following the Most High and you're keeping His law, statutes, and commandments, He's going to make a way for you. Let's finish verse 11.
All right now.
and others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly. Being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together.
So this snitch told them that they in the caves and they worshiping. And they were burned. Read.
Because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day.
Because they were keeping the most sacred day. This snitch Philip said they in the caves and they're worshiping God on the Sabbath, and they were burned.
So we know where that
Let's see what happened to a high priest who decided to follow, who stayed with the Most High. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 18 and 19.
Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
Oh no!
But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live standing with such an abomination, spitted forth a can of his own accord to the torment.
Okay, so what happened here is that this high priest who was following the Most High, he wasn't conditioned like the rest of the high priest. They made him eat swine flesh, but he bit the swine flesh but spit at him with it. And that caused his death. They tormented him. Okay? I'm going to show you something else.
It's just strange how they're trying to make us.
Malcolm, break.
It's something how they try to make us eat pig.
Okay. All right, so we're going to read first 2 Maccabees. And we're going to read the entire chapter in verse 7 because this is very, very important. And this is why the Feast of Dedication is very, very important for us. Okay, now, there was the king had a party, to give a little background. And at this party, he wanted entertainment. What better entertainers than Israelites?
Yeah.
Okay? So let's see what the entertainment was. Verse 1, and let's read.
It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mothers were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. They were beaten with scourges and whips, and they were told that you're going to eat this pork. You're going to eat this pig. Okay? 7 brethren, the menorah, 7 candles. That's why the menorah is important. Are you following me?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right, verse 2, let's read.
But one of them that spake first said thus, What wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the law of our fathers.
How many people are willing to say that? I am ready to die before I eat that bacon sandwich.
Right, that baconator.
I am ready to die before I eat that smothered pork chop. I am ready to die before I eat that pulled pork brisket.
Oh.
We got something a little for you pig lovers. Verse 3 and read.
Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot.
So he said, you know what? How dare this explicit sit here and tell me that he'd rather die? Okay, we're going to torture him. So now cauldrons, we all know that those are those big pots that they fill with oil or whatever. Okay? So he had them made hot. Verse 4.
Which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first.
Cut off his tongue, read.
And to cut off the utmost part of his body.
We all know. Do I have to explain what the utmost part of his body is?
Yes.
His penis.
Penis.
So not only did they cut off his tongue, but then they cut off his penis. Read. Cut off the utmost part of his body.
The rest of his brethren and his mother looking on.
So they had, his mother was there with them.
Oh no.
His brethren, all 6 of his brothers were there also. So they see this. He sat up there and said, you know what? I am not going to eat pig. I am not going to eat pork. I am not going to eat that. You can kill me. The king, being wrath, said, okay, you know what? I'm not going to kill you yet. I'm going to make you suffer. And then, while you're suffering, your 6 brothers and your mama are going to suck on that pork.
Oh.
They're going to eat it for our entertainment. Imagine the king having all of his royal subjects, white Idumeans. And they said, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's bring in a family of Israelites. 5 through 8. Let's get it.
Now when he was thus maimed and all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire.
So after they cut off his male part, his tongue, his arms, and his legs, he said, throw me in the fire. He wasn't, oh God, why did he do it? He said, throw me in the fire. Read.
And to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully, thus saying,
Go ahead.
Thus,
Uh-huh.
the Lord power looketh upon us, and truth hath comfort in us, as Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces declare, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servants.
Shall be comforted in his servants. We all know the song of Moses, right? All right, we don't have to go there. Okay? So he is saying that it doesn't matter. Kill me before I do anything against the Lord my God. Verse 7.
So when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mock.
Here come number 2.
Oh wow.
Okay, the first one's dead. We done fried him up. He's dead. Okay, number 2. It's time for you to sit down and eat this pork. Read.
And when they had pulled off the skin of his head,
They scalped him.
Wow.
Scalping did not come from the Indians. Scalping came from the Greeks and the Idumeans.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were scalping people. They make it like the Native Americans were the one who invented scalping so that they can be called savages. But we see now who are the real savages.
Yes, we do.
Read. Mounting stock.
they asked him, Wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body?
So they said, okay, they first scalped him and then said, now, are you going to eat this pork? Verse 8.
But he answered in his own language and said, No. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former.
They cut out his tongue, they cut off his male part, and they cut off his arms and his legs. You can still live after that's done to you, but you're about to shortly die. Verse 9. Let's hear what his last word was. Read.
And when he was at the last gasp, he said, Thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life.
Oh, who is that?
Yeshua.
That's Christ. So he knew that the Messiah was going to come. He knew that it don't matter what you do to this earthly body, that the Messiah is going to come. And he's going to raise us up on the last day. And you are going to be destroyed. Under my foot. Imagine saying that in the distress that he was in. He did not have a tongue. He did not have his male part. He did not have arms or legs.
He still can't. He just say, please, master, something.
Verse 10 and read. No, wait, we didn't finish verse 9. Yes, we did. Verse 10.
After him was the third made a mocking stock.
Okay, this one's died. Okay, now it's number 3. You're gonna sit down and you're gonna eat that pork, or else the same fate that happened to brother number 1 and brother number 2 is going to happen to you. Let's read.
After him was the third made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon, holding forth his hand manfully.
So he did this.
Don't touch me. That's like,
He said, go ahead.
wow.
And they looked like, what?
We gotta
Read.
have faith like
Verse
that.
11.
And said courageously, these I had from heaven, and for his laws I despised them, and from him I hope to receive them again.
So he's saying basically, Psalms, in the book of Psalms, it says that I was knitted together by the Most High.
Yeah.
And that's who gave me this. And when I die, I know that I'm going to get these back again. So you can have them.
Yeah.
Take my arms, take my legs, take my tongue, take whatever it is that you want. We can learn a lot from these
Yes,
7
I'm
minutes.
telling you.
And we haven't even got to the mother yet.
Woo! I
Read.
like that. Oh my.
And so much that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains.
So the king was like, oh, wait a minute. I done butchered brother number 1. I butchered brother number 2. I'm about to butcher you. And yet and still you're putting your arms and your tongue out at me to saying, go ahead and take it. Woo!
Take it.
Verse 13. 13, read.
Now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner.
Okay, brother number 3 is dead. Brother 3 he was a little courageous.
Yeah, he was.
Brother number 4, come on, sit down, eat the pork, lick it, or die. Let's read verse 14.
So when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good, being put to death by men, to look for hope from the Most High, to be raised up again by him. As for thee,
Come on.
thou shalt have no resurrection to life.
So basically what is he's preaching to him. He's saying, it's okay for you to kill me. I'm going to be resurrected. You are going to go to hell. You're going to burn forever. You will not have life in the resurrection. I will be resurrected by the Most High, because I'm keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. You are going to hell. Verse 15.
Afterward they brought the fifth also and mangled him.
They brought the 5th. The 4th one is dead. The 5th one comes up and said, okay, we didn't kill 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to eat this pork. This is over pork. Not over keeping the Sabbath. Not over call on Jupiter as your God. This is over pork. Verse 15 and read. Verse 16.
Then looked he unto the king and said, thou hast power over men, thou art corruptible.
Hold there. You got power over these men, but you're corruptible. Read.
Thou doest what thou wilt, yet think not that our nation is forsaken of the Most High.
Think not that yet think not that our nation is forsaken of the Most High.
We can say that right now.
17.
But abide a while, and behold his great power. How will he torment thee and thy seed?
So he's basically saying, how is God going to torment you? You think you're tormenting me by cutting off my arms, by cutting off my legs? Guess what the torment you're going to get? 18.
After him also they brought the 6, who being ready to die said, be not deceived without cause, for we suffer these things for ourselves, having sinned against our power. Therefore marvelous things are done unto us. But think not thou that takest in hand to strive against the Most High, that thou shalt escape unpunished.
No sin goes uncovered, unpunished. No sin goes unpunished. And he said, you do this to me, the Most High is going to punish you 5 times more, 10 times more, 20. Now, all this is going on. The mother is sitting back in brother number 7. Let's read.
But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of 1 day, she bare it with a good courage because of the hope that she had in the Lord.
So she's seeing all her sons being slain. And she ain't saying, oh my baby. How they get us on the news.
Why you let them?
How they get us on the news.
Yeah.
And when something happens to the child, then they got the mother. And she's looking horrible.
Yep.
Hair all over the place. Water all over the place. Snot all over the place. My baby, she's not even being able to speak right. That's what they do to our people.
Yeah.
No matter who they are. Issachar, big old Mother Mary in the background. You're saying stuff in Spanish and English, mixing her words up. Kissing, got the Mother Mary in the background. Native Americans, same thing. They go out and they start digging ditches for the dead. Crying and all kinds of lamentation. This woman sat up there and was honorable. She did not, oh my baby, oh good, my baby. No, let's see what she said. Verse 21 and read.
Yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own language.
And in her own language.
Filled with courageous spirits.
Filled with courageous spirits.
Stirring up her womanish thoughts.
Stirring up woman's thoughts. Go ahead.
With a manly stomach, she said unto them.
She was basically saying, you know what? In her own language. Son, die honorably.
That's right.
Son, die a courageous death. Son, let them take it away from you. That's what she was saying. She wasn't saying, baby, just go on and just take a little bite of the pole. You'll be all right. She wasn't saying that. She was saying, son, fight. Son, fight. Son, don't give up. Son, you are a child of the Most High God.
That's right.
Son, there's life after this death.
Yeah.
Let them take it away. Verse 21.
Yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own. 22. I cannot tell how you came into my womb, for I neither gave you breath nor life.
You did not give the child breath and life, women. The Most High gave the child breath and life. That old saying, I brought you in this world, I take you out. You didn't bring nobody in this world. The Most High brought the child through the world.
No. It's usually the father.
The Most High is the one who's going to remove the child or the adult or whatever the case may be. Read.
Neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you, but doubtless the Creator of the world, who formed the generation of man and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again. As you now regard not all your own selves for his law's sake.
You regard not yourself. She was saying that in Hebrew.
All right.
She was saying that in Hebrew while her sons were being tortured and murdered. Now, the king, he's thinking something else. Verse 24, and let's read.
Now, Antiochus, thinking himself despised and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, whilst the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by words, but also assured him with oaths that he would make him both a rich and a happy man, if he would turn from the laws of his fathers, and that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with affairs.
So he basically, the king is saying, you know what? We done killed 6 of your brothers. Now, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to make you second in command. I'm going to give you riches. I'm going to give you gold. I'm going to call you my friend.
Don't fall for that trick.
All you got to do is eat this pork.
Oh no.
That's all you got to do is eat this pork. I'm going to make you my friend. I'm going to trust you with all kinds of things.
Ooh.
All you got to do is eat this pork.
Esau is a mess.
25.
But when the young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life.
Now, if it was any woman of today, boy, you better get that pork. You better eat that pork. Oh, you better do it. You could be rich and we could be, you know, but not her. Not her. Verse 26.
And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son.
So she said, you know what, King? Yeah, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to talk to my son. I'm going to take counsel just like you said. Verse 27.
But she bowing herself toward her son.
She mocked him. Not, don't say son. She bowed herself towards him. Read.
Laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language on this manner.
Hold there. So she bowed herself. Then the king started, ha ha ha. Oh yeah, she's gonna do it. Read.
O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee such 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up into this age, and endured the troubles of education.
How old was his son?
3. She said 3.
3.
Wow.
3.
And he knew not to take that at 3.
3. Well, we don't know yet. Dude, 3 years old. Seeing his brothers do all torture. Not probably understanding the concept, not eating pork. 3. Raise your children up in the ways of the Lord so they can be strong in might. 28 and read.
I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth and all that is therein, and consider that the Most High made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise.
This is what she's telling them. Verse 29.
Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brothers.
This boy is 3 years old. 30 and read.
While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, Whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto our fathers by Moses. 3 years old.
Wow.
Read.
And thou that hast been the authority of all mischief, author of all mischief against the Hebrews, shall not escape the hands of the Most High.
3 years old. Read. For we suffer because of our sins. 3 years old.
So he knew that we suffer because of our sins.
He heard his brothers saying that. He heard his brothers saying that, and he knew it because his family was raised in the Lord. He was taught. And 3 years old, from an infant up until 3, 5, 6, 7, they gather things so quickly and they are so smart. You can start reading them scriptures and they'll start blanging out those scriptures left and right. Yep. They are very, very, very intelligent because they are they are sponges. They take everything in. This 3-year-old took everything in that his brothers taught him and his mother taught him. Previous chapter, his father's already dead. Because his father would not entertain the king by eating pork. 33.
And though the living Lord be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at one again with his servants.
Read that scripture again.
And though the living Lord be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction.
Chastening and correction. He's only angry at you if he chastens you and has to correct you. Right. If he's not angry with you,
you don't get no chastisement.
You're going to hell.
He don't love you.
Read.
Yet shall he be at one again with his servants.
This is what churches don't teach. This is what pastors don't teach. This is what elders don't teach. They don't get down into the scriptures like this. Why? I don't know. But the Spirit of the Most High placed in this place that we understand the scriptures. We understand fully on why we have to do the Feast of Dedication, even though the Most High did not command it. It's doing something that the Most High did not command to do, but you're doing it because it's right.
Right. Right.
Go ahead.
But thou, O godless man, and of all other most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause.
This is a 3-year-old talking.
Wow.
This ain't the mother. Read.
Nor puffed up uncertain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of the Most High. For thou hast not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty Power, who seeth all things.
Verse 36.
For our brethren who now have suffered a short pain are dead under the Most High's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, though the judgment of the Most High, shall receive just punishment for
thy pride. 3 years old.
You know, I took a child development class, and it says from the time your child is born up until like 3 or 4 years old, you should not be careful who you leave your kids with, and do not sit your child in front of a TV, because they are like sponges and they soak up everything. They are very intelligent. They soak up a lot of stuff.
I think it's true because this generation is a generation that has more pedophiles, sex offenders, and like child molesters. Because we were born, what was it, in the 90s, and there was a lot of subliminal messages like through in the back of the cartoons and everything. And now this generation shows what it was that you were watching. Yeah, it's the fruit that was what is it? The fruit that was cropped or something.
Correct.
That's why you should not put your child in front of a TV.
37. This is the 3-year-old still talking. You think it's the mom talking,
Yeah,
but this is the 3-year-old that's talking. Verse 37. Let's read it.
But I, as my brethren, offer up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching the Most High, that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou by torments and plagues mayest confess that he alone is the Most High.
That he alone is the Most High. Verse 38.
And that in me and my brethren the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease.
So he's saying that, you know what? We're going to die, and by us dying, we pray that everything else stops. 3 years old. 39.
Then the king, being in a rage, handed him worse than all the rest, and took it grievously that he was mocked.
The king then, oh my goodness, this 3-year-old boy is schooling me? Oh, hell no. Probably did say that. This ain't gonna happen. This 3-year-old boy is schooling me. No, I got to do him worse than his brothers.
I can't believe by now his mother's not a crying, passing out, you know. She's still strong. 40 and read.
So this man died undefiled and put his whole trust in the Lord. Last of all, after the sons, the mother died.
The mother was killed. Read.
Let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feast and the extreme tortures.
Let this be enough to show you how these feasts and tortures should not be partaken in. And that's not just that's with any holiday. Oh, because we can go back on every single one of them. And I can show you through the Bible on every single one of them on what happened to people when they did not celebrate those pagan holidays.
Well, you know, it's something if we're not supposed to, the Bible says in Jeremiah, run not the way of the heathen. So if you got people that's celebrating birthdays and all that. And then you have people that's supposed to be atheists, but they still celebrate December 25th. That lets you know that something is very wrong.
Something is very wrong. Okay, more on swine.
Malcolm?
And it doesn't matter whether it's cooked fully or raw, as we're gonna find out.
There are reasons that the meat of the pigs become more saturated with toxins than many of its counterpart farm animals. The first reason has to do with the digestive system of a pig. Pigs are the filthiest animals on earth, with the most parasites and diseases than any other animal that mankind consumes. Pigs are commonly associated with eating not only their own feces, but of other animals and humans. In parts of the third world, it is the best scavenger known that exists in the villages, that do not have modern toilets, and the villages excrete in open air. Excreta is cleared by pigs. A pig farm with 5,000 animals produces as much fecal waste as a city of 50,000 people. A pig digests whatever it eats rather quickly, in up to about 4 hours. On the other hand, cow takes a good 24 hours to digest what it's eaten. During the digestive process, animals, including humans, get rid of excess toxins as well as other components of the food eaten that could be dangerous to health. Pigs' bodies contain many toxins, worms, and latent diseases. Although some of these infestations are harbored in other animals, modern veterinarians say that pigs are far more predisposed to the illnesses than any other animal. This could be because pigs like to scavenge and will eat any kind of food. Since the pig's digestive system operates rather basically, many of these toxins remain in the system to be stored in more than adequate fatty tissues. Pigs also do not have any sweat glands. Sweat glands are a tool for the body to get rid of toxins. This leaves more toxins in the pig's body. The pork and swine industry has been continually plagued, and continues to be so to this day, by a wide variety of hazardous infections and diseases. Even pigs that are carefully reared in pig farms are still affected. According to the surprising new investigation on pigs that were raised in the US, 69% of all raw pork samples tested, nearly 200 samples in total, were contaminated with dangerous bacteria, Yersinia enterocolitica, which causes fever and gastrointestinal illnesses with diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach cramps. Pigs carry a variety of parasites in their bodies and meat. Some of these parasites are difficult to kill, even when cooking. This is the reason there are so many warnings out there about eating undercooked pork. Pork poses certain health risks from bacteria and resistant bacteria that causes infection and viruses. Shocking new research has shown that millions of people are living with parasites inside them from eating pork. Here are some of the deadliest parasites found in humans that consume pork. Pork tapeworm parasite, Taenia solium. The pork tapeworm is number 1 in top 10 list of foodborne parasites in the world, affecting 50 million people worldwide, killing 50,000 people each year worldwide. All these figures are both likely to be underestimated according to the researchers. Tapeworm infections are common in Asia, Africa, the Philippines, South America, parts of the southern Europe, and pockets of North America. The pork tapeworm can affect your heart, brain, lungs, and diaphragm. 60% of the diagnosed cases of pork tapeworm, the victim has cysts inside the brain, and with the cysts in the brain you get seizures, coma, hallucinations, or even possible death. The pork tapeworm forms cysts inside the tissue of the pig. When the human eats pork, they get infected. Adult tapeworms living inside the intestines of humans produce up to 50,000 eggs each. In the human gut, the cysts form into an adult tapeworm, where these can grow up to several meters long. The adult worms lay eggs that have passed into human feces. If the pig eats the feces, the pig grows cysts inside its muscles, tissues, and the life cycle repeats. Tapeworm larvae, brain parasites, is an increasingly serious public health problem around the world. Pork tapeworm larvae can create cavities in the brain and other parts of the body tissues, where their tiny bodies can grow sometimes into tapeworms 2 to 7 meters long and can live up to 25 years in the human body. CT scans have shown affected patients having so many wormholes in the brain, making it appear similar to a starry sky. Chronic headaches and pork tapeworms. New research has shown that the cause of chronic headaches, such as migraines and tension, headache symptoms may be a sign of pork tapeworm inside the brain. The most common cause of adult onset epilepsy in the world is caused by pork tapeworm. 50 million people around the world are affected by epilepsy, many of which are caused by pork tapeworm. It can cause brain tumors, depression, dementia, aneurysm. Aneurysm occurs when part of the blood vessel, artery, or cardiac chamber swells, potentially causing headaches, dizziness, seizures, other neurological disorders, and sudden death. This one parasite alone should be enough to stop you from eating pork. neurocystic neurosis is the result of accidental ingestion of eggs of Taenia solium, i.e. pork tapeworm, usually due to the contamination of food by people with Taeniasis tapeworm infection. The closer scientists look at the epidemiology of a disease, the worse it becomes. In one study in Peru, researchers found 37% of people showed signs of having been infected at some point. The review of the scientific literature concluded that somewhere between 11 million and 29 million people have neurocystic neurosis in Latin America alone. Tapeworms are also common in the other regions of the world, such as Asia and Africa. People have a higher risk for getting neurocystic neurosis by swallowing parasite eggs. If they have a pork tapeworm infection, this is called auto-infection. Live in a household with someone else who has a pork tapeworm, or even eat food made by someone with a pork tapeworm infection. The roundworm parasite, one of the biggest concerns with eating pork meat is trichinosis or trichinosis. This is an infection that humans get from eating pork that contains the larvae of the trichinella worm. Over 1 billion people are thought to be infected with roundworm. You get the worm by ingesting food or water which contains worm eggs. A large percentage of this 1 billion has been linked to consuming pork. One roundworm can produce nearly 250,000 eggs a day. In the US and Canada, 1 in 6 people has trichinosis from eating trichina worms, which are found in pork. Many people have no symptoms to warn them of this, and when they do, they resemble symptoms of many other illnesses. These worms are not noticed during meat inspection, nor does salting or smoking kill them. Common symptoms of trichinosis include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, fever, chills, coughs, swollen eyes, muscle pain, aching joints, coordination problems, heart issues, and even breathing problems. According to research, these symptoms can last for weeks, and more serious conditions months on end. The roundworm Trichinella spiralis causes trichinosis. As in tapeworm infections, the mature worms are largely confined to the intestines, where symptoms include nausea, heartburn, dyspepsia, diarrhea, and synophilia. The larvae can migrate through the body, producing edema, muscle pains, fever, and weakness. The greatest danger is the larvae reaching the brain, where they can cause serious neurological deficits, such as ataxia or respiratory paralysis, and even death. Death results from a rare form of stroke, myocarditis, encephalitis, and pneumonia. Other helminth parasites, large multicellular organisms found in pork, include pinworm, hookworm, and ascaris worms. There are dozens of other worms, germs, diseases, and bacteria which are commonly found in pigs, many of which are specific to the pig or found in greater frequency in pigs. Pigs are also primary carriers of the hepatitis E virus, the HEV, the PRRS virus, the porcine, reproductive, and respiratory syndrome, the nigrovirus, the meningococcal virus. Each of these parasites and viruses can lead to serious health problems or even death. Eating pork increases your waistline and increases your chance of developing deadly diseases such as heart diseases, diabetes, arthritis, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, asthma, and impotence. Heart disease. Eating processed meats such as bacon, ham, and sausages can increase the risk of heart disease and diabetes. Processed meats are already linked to the higher chance of developing bowel cancer, but Roundup research has now shown a link with other conditions. 20 worldwide published studies involving more than 1 million people. It found a 42% higher risk of heart disease and a 19% increased risk of type 2 diabetes for each daily serving, on average 50 grams of processed meat. A 50-gram serving is roughly equivalent to 2 rashers of bacon or 1 hot dog. Bladder cancer risks. Another disadvantage of pork is that it increases the risk of bladder cancer if you eat well done or burnt pork often. Pork cooked at high temperatures creates heterocyclic amines, HCAs, which can cause cancer. A 12-year study involving 844 patients with bladder cancer and 878 patients without bladder cancer gathered nutritional information and found that patients who ate pork and other red meats well done had a significantly higher risk of bladder cancer. Liver cirrhosis. Pork is causing liver cirrhosis at a similar rate to that of consuming excessive alcohol. Several factors about pork consumption that could be causing liver damage and toxicity. There is an obvious fact that most of all pork products in the West consumed are processed, such as smoked ham, cold cuts, bacon, and sausages. These products contain high levels of nitrate preservatives, which are known as carcinogens and can contribute to the development of liver cancer. In addition, processed pork ingredients are often heated to extremely high temperatures for prolonged periods of time, resulting in the production of hundreds of harmful free radicals that are known to wreak havoc on health, particularly liver health. A relation between pork consumption and cirrhosis of the liver is apparent across countries and has been consistently maintained for the last 40 years. In countries with low alcohol consumption, no correlation was obtained between alcohol consumption and cirrhosis. However, a significant correlation was obtained between cirrhosis and pork. A similar relationship
every
was seen
tribe
in the 10 Canadian provinces
differently
where there were no
accustomed to
correlation
their
between
tradition,
cirrhosis,
eat some
mortality,
kind
and
of pork.
alcohol
Or
consumption,
even,
but a
what's the
significant
black
correlation was
pig? The
obtained
black
with
pig is
pork.
not beef, but
Pork fat
the bigger
has a
one.
high saturated
Huh?
fatty acid and
Hallelujah.
cholesterol
Yeah,
contents.
because,
Diets high in pork have been
Cubans
linked
and
in
Puerto
population
Ricans, they
studies
cook
to higher
the-
risk of esophageal,
the-
thyroid,
like a little
lung,
thing, like
pancreatic,
olive
liver,
roasted?
bladder,
Yeah, all
colorectal,
of it.
and
And
prostate
it's like
cancers.
a big
There
thing
are
for them, and they're like,
strong correlations between pork
Isobar,
consumption
well,
and liver
we do the
disease, liver cancer,
pozole
and
is
multiple
not good
sclerosis. Research has
Menudo is the
indicated there is an
insides of
association
now,
between
but
pork
pozole
consumption
is
and the
pork.
primary liver
Pork
cancer,
tamales too, it's
hepatocellular
really, really
carcinoma,
popular in
pork
the
and
culture.
multiple sclerosis.
And,
Researchers looked for
if
the
you really
diseases
look
that
at the
correlation with
tribes
pork
itself, and I
consumption
mean,
and
now
hit upon
Judah, you
multiple
know, in
sclerosis. The
America,
connection
it's like
is remarkable. A
barbecue and pork,
significant
yeah,
correlation
pork,
was
pork,
obtained
pork,
between
pork.
prevalence of multiple sclerosis and pork consumption. Breast cancer
That's
risks
solid.
have been found in
Putting
patients who
the pork
consume
on a
pork.
stick and rolling
Pork
it.
and gout. Because pork is moderately high in purines, consuming
Yeah.
excessive or frequent amounts can increase
Pork
your
and
uric acid
gout.
levels,
Oh.
leading to worsened gout
Dominicans are
symptoms.
big with pork too.
When pork is eaten, it can wreak havoc on the body. It tends to have more fat than beef or chicken. This can cause high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer, sodium retention, and heart problems. Pig meat contains excessive quantities of histamines and imidazole compounds, which can lead to itching and inflammation. Eating pork can lead to gallstones and obesity due to its high cholesterol and saturated fat contents. The more research that is done on pigs, the more it is gradually revealing that this meat is not fit for human consumption. So, to round up, as you can see, pork processed, fresh, raw, fully cooked, all have serious health implications.
Wow.
Hey,
Can you keep a pig as a pet? No.
You're not supposed to even touch it.
You're not
That's how-
supposed to touch a pig.
Even if you
No.
touch it, it's unclean.
right. Pigs are basically, they're cleanup.
They were the garbage cans
So
of the earth.
the people who would have pigs would use the pigs as far as cleaning up their land with all the waste and everything. That's what they were used for.
Or even in the Flintstones, it comes out like their trash disposals or like a big
Yeah.
pig.
There you
It's
go.
a big pig.
I never would have caught that. Here's
See, they telling us right
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Wow.
Fred, we need a new
on,
trash
this is allcreatures.org. And this is what they do with dead pigs. Okay? So, dead cows are constant presence in factory farms, while pigs were fed massive amounts of antibiotics to keep them alive in conditions that otherwise would kill them. Hundreds of thousands succumb to the stress of violent mutations and intensive confinement. Dead pigs are sent to the rendering plants where they are made to be fillers for all meat of fast food places.
Yeah. Ooh.
And for meat and processed foods, dog and cat food, or into feed that will be given to pigs, chickens, and other farm animals.
Wait, what? So they're
Dead
eating
pigs, the
dead
pigs who
pigs
don't
for-
make it,
Uh-huh.
they throw them out into what's called a dead pig pile. They take those dead pigs, they either die from mutilation or in confinement, because what they do is they confine these pigs to this little cage, and that's where they live their entire life and they stick them with these antibiotics to make them grow huge. So then the ones who don't make it, it's called a dead pig pile, and I saw it online. It's rather disgusting, where they just throw these pigs in a pile. What they do with that meat from the dead pig is they make it for all these fast food restaurants. You thinking you're having a Big Mac, when in fact you're having dead pigs along with wood fillers and everything else. Well, human, that's basically what
Thank you.
McDonald's
So is that
and
like
Burger King.
every fast food?
Every fast food restaurant.
So like
It's on
Whopper-
allcreatures.org.
Yeah, whatever.
Also, with that, the hot dogs and processed meat, sausages and hot dogs that are made with pork, they also have these pigs that come from a dead pig pile.
Even the chicken ones, like the chicken.
I was just thinking that.
Even
like
the chicken ones.
Winnies.
Oh,
If you
yes,
get the hot dogs, they have to be kosher beef. Reason why it has to be kosher is because the Jews, the Jewish people, they're not gonna eat that.
Nope. Kosher?
It has to be kosher.
What is kosher?
Kosher is Jewish.
It's made so it's according to the laws.
And those you can eat because there will not be any pork traced in that. Any type of kosher meat, you will not eat. You will not have to worry about this.
How do you check if it's kosher? Is it like a brand or how do you check if it's
They'll
kosher?
say kosher on it.
Oh, it'll say kosher.
It's like
Well, I can tell
And
you
it's the
now,
expensive
none of those brats have this beef. All of them is pork.
Remember what?
Brats, bratwurst,
bratwurst?
I'm sorry, all of those, that's pork.
Or sauce.
Get it from backwards?
So this is why they refuse to eat pork. This is
We have to know that our people didn't have toilets back then.
right. So what did they use?
They had to go
They used
outside the
pigs.
camp. And after they did their business, they had an area, they
That's
had,
where the pigs were,
they had to clean it
and
up.
that's where the pigs would eat the human excrement because they didn't have toilets in Bible days. They went in the field, did their business, came back into the camp. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that Christ couldn't come into the camp if the people
And
were
when they was in
in the
the
wilderness.
wilderness, yeah.
They had to go outside, do their business, bury it, and come back in because Christ would walk in the camp at night. Okay. This is why they fought so hard and gave up their lives to not eat pork.
I don't blame them.
Okay? We're gonna do the dietary law again. Maybe we'll take it serious this time. Last time we did it, all I hear was chew the cud. But maybe we'll take it serious this time.
Wait, what? What is it?
could.
Oh,
Dietary law, you can only
The grass,
eat the animals that chew the cud per Leviticus the 11th chapter.
Right.
Monsanto.
Show some of your cup.
Okay.
So, this company is something else.
We're gonna learn about Monsanto when we do the Bible, when we do the
It says
dietary
sheeple.
law.
That's what they call it, sheeple.
Okay?
Monsanto? That's a brand for
Monsanto,
what?
it's a company.
A company for what? What
It's
do
a
they do?
company that basically are killing us.
Poison in our food.
They're poisoning the food. The ones who put rat droppings and rat poison in sodas, Monsanto is providing that. The chemicals.
Your prenatal vitamins.
Not
Monsanto.
my prenatal vitamins.
She doesn't take them. I told her not to take them.
No, I did what?
Throw them away.
My mom and I called and...
I'll just put that in there.
Yeah,
also.
we did. We can ask for that.
Alright, so what finally happened? Let's get 2 Maccabees chapter 15 verses 1 through 6. Let's finish this up, and then we have a couple of Bible scriptures from the King James Version. So 2 Maccabees chapter 15 verse 1 through 6. What happened to the Greeks after all this stuff that was going on? Niacor is a Idumean. Let's just say that.
They were medicine called.
Let's read.
But Niacor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set upon them on the Sabbath day.
Yes.
Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, O destroy not so cruelly the barbarously, but give honor to the day which he that seeth all things had honored, with holiness above all other days.
Verse 3.
Then the most ungracious wretch demanded, if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept.
Verse 4.
And when they said, there is in heaven a living Lord, and mighty, who commanded the seventh day to be kept.
The seventh day to be kept. Verse 5.
Then said the other, and I also am mighty upon earth, and I commanded to take arms and to do the king's business. Yet ye obtain not to have his wicked will done.
Uh-huh.
So Niacor in exceeding pride and
haughtiness,
determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him.
So Nicanor was an Idumean, who's over there right now. And this is the final battle right here. And what happened here is that Nicanor had all these Idumeans and Greeks, and they were basically getting ready to fight Judas for the last time. And this guy was so narcissistic that he started building a public monument to himself before the battle even started.
Wow.
What about Judas? What did he say? 2 Maccabees chapter 15 verses 7 through 12. It says Maccabeus, but that's Judas' last name. And let's read.
But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. Wherefore he exalted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them.
Don't fear him. Read.
But to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven.
Remember everything that was done beforehand. Go ahead.
And now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty.
Come to them from the Almighty. Expect it. He's not saying, well, maybe he'll come. He's saying, expect victory. Verse 9.
And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets.
He used the Bible. Read.
And withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful.
They were ready.
Let's do it, let's die.
10.
And when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths.
When you preach, you don't just preach about the Bible, you talk about what the heathens are doing against the Bible. Go ahead.
Thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears as with comfortable and good words. And besides that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them.
Prophecy. Verse 12.
And this was his vision, that Onias, who had been high priest, a virtuous and a good man, reverend in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hands, prayed for the whole body of the Jews.
What happened next? Remember, what happened next? 2 Maccabees chapter 15, verses 25 through 27. And let's read it.
Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs.
So, once again, they're mocking. They're not coming with trumpets and songs to praise. They're coming to mock. Because they feel that the battle's already won. 26.
So Judas and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer, so that fighting with their hands and praying unto the Most High with their hearts, they slew no less than 30 and 5,000 men. 30 and 5,000 men. Read. For through the appearance of the Most High they were greatly cheered.
Appearance of the Most High, they were greatly cheered. Here's Nicanor today.
Wow.
This is them today. Even though some of them are black, still, they're no more better than the Idumeans who call themselves Jews, and they're not. That's Lamentations 2:14 if you want that scripture.
Take a picture.
Alright, after the fight. Let's read 2 Maccabees chapter 15 verses 28 through 39 to finish this off.
Now, when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness.
He's dead. Read.
Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language.
They were praising the Most High in Hebrew. Go ahead.
And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued to his love toward his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and hand with his soldiers, and bring them to Jerusalem.
He demanded that that guy's head be cut off. He was beheaded, even after he was dead, 31.
So when he was there and called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower, and showed them vile Nankor's head and the hand of that blasphemer, which with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty.
So they not only had his head, but they also cut off his hand. Also, verse 33.
And when he had cut out the tongue of that, what is that?
That the Most High Nachor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple. So they cut off his head. They also cut out his tongue. Remember when that was happening? So, and he also chopped it up and gave it to the fowls, birds. 34.
So every man praised toward the heaven the glorious Lord, saying, Blessed be he that hath kept his own place undefiled. He hanged also Nankor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of the Lord. And they ordained all with a common decree in no case to let that day pass without solemnity, but to celebrate the 30th day of the 12th month, which in the Syrian tongue is called Adar, the day before Maradaka's day.
Okay.
Now, that does not sound like, the Most High just loved everybody. No. No matter what you do, he loved you when you were sinning. That don't sound like it.
No, 37.
Thus it went with Nanchor, and from that time forth the Hebrews had the city in their power. And here will I make an end. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, if is that which I desire, but it's slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain unto. For as it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant and delighteth the taste, even so speech finely framed delighteth the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end.
Once again, wine is bad. Wine mingled with water, it's not fermented. Okay? I don't have to go there. We did that teaching already. About wine. Okay, now that is the story of the Feast of Dedication. That's why we are honoring the Feast of Dedication. What about your temples? We're not done yet. We don't have a temple right now. So the temple is our body.
Right.
Okay? We don't have a temple that we go to worship. The temple is now our bodies. So, with that being said, are you sacrificing unclean things in your temple and disgracing your temple that the Most High has given you? 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, 17. Let's read it.
Know ye not that ye are the temple of the Most High, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth in you?
Let's get verse 17, because all of it didn't come up. Let's get 17 and read.
If any man defile the temple of Ahiah, him shall Ahiah destroy. For the temple of the Most High is holy. Which temple ye are?
Which temple are you? Let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. Which temple are you? No longer is there a temple of Solomon where Greeks and Romans can come in and slaughter, butcher pigs on the altar and disgrace the altar. You are the temple now. So which temple are you? Are you a temple of the Most High where it's unclean, where it's clean? You put clean animals in your body or clean food, or is it the temple of Satan? 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20, and let's read it.
What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own?
Which ye have of the Most High. Verse 20.
For ye are bought with a price. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify the Most High in your body and in your spirit, which are the Most High's.
Which are the Most High's. Verse 20. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20. And let's read it.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils.
Pig, swine, we've seen that the Gentiles sacrifice things, they sacrifice to the devil, and they made us attempt to eat that stuff. Go ahead.
And not to the Most High. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
Don't have fellowship with devils. We're going to read Psalms 30 in its entirety. It's 12 verses, and then we are finished. Psalms chapter 30 in its entirety. Let's read.
A psalm and song of the dedication of the house of David.
Dedication. Go ahead.
I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me.
Remember, Psalms was written probably about maybe 500 or 600 years before the Maccabees. Okay? This is prophecy. Verse 2.
O Lord my God, I cried unto thee, and thou hast healed me.
Thou hast healed me. Verse 3.
O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, and I should not go down to the pit.
Verse 4.
Sing unto the Lord, O ye saints of his, and give thanks and the remembrance of his holiness. For his anger endureth but a moment, and his favor is life.
How many people said that? Read.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
Read. Woo.
And in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved.
Verse 7.
Lord, by thy favor thou hast made my mountain to stand strong. Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled. I cried to thee, O Lord, and unto the Lord I made supplication. With profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit.
What profit is in my blood if I go to the pit? Verse, continue.
Shall the dust praise thee? Shall I declare thy truth? Hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me, Lord. Be thou my helper.
11.
Thou hast turned for me my mourning into dancing. Thou hast puttest off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness.
12.
To the end that my glory may sing praise to thee, and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thee thanks. I will give thanks unto thee forever.
O Lord my power. Next week you're invited for the Feast of Dedication. So we give Father all the praise and glory for the Feast of Dedication teaching. Next week we're going to have the actual Feast of Dedication. And who knows, maybe I'll do the teaching on the dietary law to show why you should not eat crab, shrimp, lobster, or pig. Or it's either going to be that, or it's going to be Matthew the 14:22. Many are called, few are chosen. So we give Father all the praise and glory. We thank him for the Feast of Dedication. We thank him for putting the strength in Judas Maccabees to lead the people and fight on several occasions. All praises be to Ahia, Ashia's name. Amen.